Hi everyone, it's Cassie and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today we're going to be playing with a September 2021 Pink and Main kit called Pumpkin Spice, and this one is still available, so I'll have it linked down below. But let me talk about the stamping that I did here. We did a little two-step stamping. I did a lot of the stamping. This is all solid stamping, so I did a lot of that ahead of time. I'm going to show you how I did those pumpkins, which is basically the same for anything that you see that might have two shades. So I have my pumpkins on my Minty. You do need some sort of stamp positioning tool for something like this. That makes it that much easier. And I'm going to use some Simon Hurley Create inks. That's what I'm using for all of my stamping today. I love these inks. And we're going to start with some slippery when wet. Now my stamps are already conditioned, but what you could do is rub your hand over them or use like a microfiber cloth or an eraser. Those are good ways to get your stamps conditioned and ready to receive the ink so that it'll stamp a little bit better. So I'm going to ink that up, stamp that down. Don't do the best job on that smallest pumpkin, but this is again where the Minty or a stamp positioning tool comes in super handy. And you might have other inks that might even stamp even better than this, but I just love these inks. I think they match the papers so well. And so yeah, that's what we're using. And then we're going to come in. This is kind of a rock and roll technique with that traffic cone. And all I'm doing is pouncing it more on the edge of the pumpkins and being very light with that. And you'll notice that I have ink all around those edges, which is fun. That's what's going to give you that two-tone look. So I'll go ahead and stamp that down and take a look at that. Now I already unboxed this kit, so if you haven't seen that, I'll have that link down below. But now I'm just bringing in the matching dies that came in the kit. You'll notice I didn't stamp the stem. It's probably super easy to go ahead and stamp that stem, but I was concerned that maybe I wouldn't get it stamped on there correctly. So I'm going to die cut all my pumpkins and everything else first, and if there's something that I was unsure about how I would stamp it, I'll stamp it now. So I've got my stem for this particular pumpkin. I'm bringing in some Gur ink. And then I'll just easily, pardon my head, stamp down the stem on all three of those pumpkins and do the same for the pumpkins right up above that. But it is pretty easy to line up. I'm sure you could avoid this step and just stamp first. And these were some other ones that I was afraid I wouldn't stamp correctly either. So got my flame there, and then I'm going to bring in these little, I'm not sure what they are, but they were on the cupcake and it's adorable. So I'll stamp those down as well. And now we'll move into our first project. This is going to be a tag. This die that you're seeing there was actually from a previously released kit. I think it was from one of last year's kits. But any tag die would do for something like this. I just love this one. I use it all the time. That's what's great about these Pink and Main kits. They are amazing stash builders. So I did die cut 2 out of that patterned paper because I want to put those back to back. That'll make it a thicker tag. It'll make it a little bit just better, and that way if the tag gets flipped, it's cohesive from front to back. So I'll just glue those together. But one of the things I love about making tags is that you don't have to necessarily use them on a gift. These would be great to just stick on the front of an A2 size card or whatever. But yeah, you could easily attach this to a gift or a bottle of wine, you know what I'm saying? All right, I stamped out my sentiment, Happy Autumn. I'm going to trim that down with my guillotine trimmer. And I've pulled in a few of those pieces that I've stamped and die cut. And that's why I have them all just laying up there, because I'm flying by the seat of my pants here on all of these projects. And I love it. So we'll glue down all of our pieces. And you notice I have my pumpkin kind of sticking off the edge. My sentiment is too. Just kind of gives that tag even a little bit more interest. And then I am going to punch a hole. There is a die, a little circle die that comes in the kit that you could use, but this is 3 layers thick, so I figured I'd just use a hole punch. And then I have twine on my desk always, so I'll trim this down. I'll put the 2 pieces through the back and loop those through the center, and then I like to tie a knot at the top of my tags just to make sure everything stays put. And then when we're done with that, that'll finish off our first project, a cute little tag. Love it. Love it, love it. For card number 2, we're going to pull in some of that Tahitian Princess cardstock that came in the kit. I cut this down to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and now I'm scoring it at 4.25. It will be a side folding A2 size card. I love when Michelle includes this stuff in the kit because it's beautiful and it has a great texture, and I just love it. So I trimmed down a little bit of pattern paper. Didn't trim it down enough, so I'm trimming it down a little bit more. I wanted that to have a nice little border around the edge. And now I'm just going to kind of pull in my pieces and see how I want this to go. That's why I have all those pieces laid up there. I'm not sure how I'm going to use them all, but I will use most of them eventually. So I'll stamp out my sentiment onto this little scrap of pattern paper I have there using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I'll let that dry for a little bit, and while I am doing that, I'm going to adhere my panel down to my card base. And I say let that dry because that VersaFine Clair is a pigment ink, so you do want to let that sit a second before you start putting your fingers all over it. I'll attach down my pumpkins. I just love these pumpkins. I love fall, I love pumpkins, I love all of that, and these little cards and images are just speaking to my heart. I'll put the little sprigs down below, and then I'll even attach one of the little blue hearts that I stamped and die cut and put that right on top of there. Now I'll bring in my guillotine trimmer and trim down my sentiment. I'll trim it down even a little bit more, and then I'll attach that with some of that liquid glue as well. And then I do bring in those glitter enamel dots. Oh, I always love these too. And I went crazy putting these dots all over this one. And I used the reverse tweezers that came in the kit. These are so handy if you don't have a pair. I highly suggest getting them. They're just really great for little pieces or putting embellishments like this on there. But there you have it. There is card number 2, and I'm happy with that one as well. Card number 3 is going to be a slimline, so I cut down some of the yellow cardstock that came in the kit to 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm scoring it at 3.5 inches. I thought I'd cut it wrong, so I was trying to figure that out. Turns out I didn't. So yes, scoring it at 3.5 inches, and it will be, you know, a slimline card. You'll notice I have my pattern paper over there. I cut that down to 3 inches by 6 inches for each one. We are going to make it look continuous, and I love doing this with the pattern paper. Even though it's a 6 by 6 and we're making a slimline, you can easily do this. You just cover your seams, and that's easy enough to do. And I love that then this will look like a continuous piece of pattern paper all the way up that whole card. So, and wood grain at that. So I love that. Love that. All right, adding that right to our cardstock just to make it a little easier so I don't have glue sticking off the edges. And I'll let that dry while I'm going to work on this little panel. And this panel measures, I think it's like 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Yeah, 2.5 by 3.5. And now I'm just going to grab the pieces that are up there, kind of just playing around with them, seeing how I like the placement of them. Not sure exactly what I want to use, but I'm digging this. So now I'll bring in that sentiment, stamp that at the top. That sentiment is fabulous. I love it. Start each day with a grateful heart. It's great advice. That's a great card to receive in the mail, you know? So now I'll glue down all of my little pieces. You, of course, could always be using foam tape in the process, but I'm just using liquid glue. It's a little easier, makes it a little easier to mail as well. Add my coffee cup or my cocoa cup, which I love that cocoa cup. It's so cute. It's so cute. And then a little steam, and then I'll add this little heart, which keeps getting stuck to my fingers. So this is, I should have been using the reverse tweezers the whole time, but again, sticks to my fingers. But there's one more use for how great those reverse tweezers are. And then I'm trying to figure out what else I want to add to it. Afterwards, I do end up adding even another piece to this, and you'll see that in the final picture. But yeah, I'm going to add a leaf behind here, and then I end up grabbing that acorn that's in the upper left-hand side of your screen, and I put that on there as well. But again, you'll see that afterwards. And I'll even show you at the end with all the cards. I had so many pieces left over that I just started adding them to the insides of the cards. It's one of the things I enjoy about just stamping ahead of time when I'm working with kits like this. Stamp a bunch of images, and then you have all these leftovers to either make extra cards or add to the insides of your cards. And I love doing that. Now I'll just add a little glue, add this little piece of pattern paper. I'm not sure why, I just felt like it grounded it a little bit. And then I'll trim off the excess. And then, of course, we'll bring in those glitter enamel dots again with our reverse tweezers, and we'll put those down. I wasn't quite as crazy putting these all over the place, but I put 5 on there, and I'm using that brown that's in there. It's such a pretty mix of colors. I love this fall color palette so much. And then that's going to finish off card number 3. Love how that one turned out. All right, let me brace you for card number 4. I thought I hit the button, but I didn't. So I didn't get any of the filming other than this to just basically show you what I did. You're seeing the finished card. I have that orange panel that I cut down to 5 inches by 7 3/4 inches and then scored that right down the middle of it. I did cut a little bit extra off that edge because I wanted to do some partial die cutting. I wanted it to look like the pumpkin was on the outside, but technically it's on the inside of the card. And so I just die cut part of the pumpkin, ran that through my die cutting machine like so, and then that way when the card is closed, it looks like the pumpkin's on the outside, but it's on the inside. You'll notice the pattern paper is my card base technically, but that doesn't open, and that just measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I stamp my sentiment, use the little pieces that I have all stamped and cut and ready, and that's how you have this card. I am so sorry that I thought I hit the button and I didn't. And here you have it. But I do love how this one turned out. I think it's fun. It's a little bit different. And it's just a good little card. All right, did turn the camera back on for filming here, so you're going to see me make a shaker. I have a panel of cardstock that I've cut down to actually 5 1/2 inches by 4 inches because I do want a little bit of white on the top and bottom. I'm lining up the pumpkin dies, and then I'm going to tape those down with a little bit of, or tack that down with a little bit of mint tape, run that through my die cutting machine, and those are going to be the little windows. And you could save those pumpkins for something else. But now I need my card base. So that was from the white cardstock that came in the kit, cut down to 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches and scored at 4 1/4. So it will be a top folding A2 size card. Now I'm taking my panel and lining that up on the front of the card base, and then I'm just going to glue down my pumpkins. You could stamp through there if you wanted to, but I had the extra pumpkins and I thought, yep, we're just going to go ahead and save ourselves a little bit of time and put those down. And so we'll do that for each of those pumpkins, lining that up. And it's really easy. This sparked some ideas just watching this, how you could have open like a window like that and have your stuff show through rather than just making a shaker, which not that it's just making a shaker. Shakers are always fun. But yeah, there's so many possibilities with sets like this. All right, then I'm going to tack down my first piece of acetate using some of that liquid glue. I said first piece because if you've never seen me create a shaker before, you'll see what I mean. I put all my foam tape down, then I'm going to peel off all that release paper before I put any of my shaker stuff in there. And then I'm going to grab in the sequins, and I only did 1 layer of foam tape, so the bits will shake around pretty good, but if you want it to really shake, make it 2 layers. And then this is where I'll bring in my second piece of acetate. I do this because I can never get it lined up right otherwise, and then I always have a mess of shaker stuff everywhere. So I'll grab my liquid glue, and then I can adhere this down to the front of our card base, making sure that those pumpkins are showing nicely. I'll take this piece of pattern paper that I have cut down, and I'll just add that to the bottom just to add a little more grounding and interest. And then I'm going to get ready to stamp my sentiment. And like I said, I just love that sentiment. Start each day with a grateful heart. It's a good reminder. And then I'll trim that down with my guillotine trimmer. And then we'll attach this to the front of our card base with that same liquid glue. And I don't do any more embellishing. You absolutely could, but I figure with all the sequins in there, we were set. And so that's going to finish off card number 5. You'll notice I have tons of pieces left over, but I use them, and let me show you. I put them on the insides of my cards. I even added a heart to this pumpkin. Love that. And then I'll show you the next one. I added pumpkins on the inside. Oh, I love how that one turned out. And then our other one, we added a few more. So if you like this video, I would love it if you hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And then in the comment section, let me know which one of these cards was your favorite, if you did in fact have a favorite. Maybe you didn't, I don't know. But if you did, leave that down in the comment section. Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me, and I hope that you have a fabulous day. Bye everybody.